In this video, I'm going to give you some simple ways to break 100. I know it's a score barrier that a lot of you want to be breaking, and there's some real simple tips in this that are going to help you do it. And tip number one, we're going to start with our drivers. Now, I know if you are trying to break 100, your levels of consistency aren't going to be at their optimum. But even so, there's things that we can do, because I played with friends the other day and they're hovering around that mark, and there were some things that I was just banging my head against the wall thinking, why are you doing that? Why have you not even looked at what you're doing? And the first one is all about understanding the hole. Now, I would imagine the majority of you are slicers. Hit that little like button for me down there as well if you are a slicer. I've got a video coming to sort that out. But if you are a slicer, we step up onto a hole like this, the 4th at Warrington. It's a beautiful hole, and as we see, down the right-hand side there is trouble. We've got a big pond. We've got one bunker in the fairway on the left-hand side, but also just beyond the pond there is out of bounds. Now, from here, yes, you're probably still going to slice it. You're not just going to miraculously not slice it and become the greatest driver of the golf ball. But what we do have, when we look over to the left here, I've actually got the 5th hole, I've got the 15th hole, and I've got the 14th hole. The 15th and the 14th, they're like 400 yards away. But what I would see from people who are trying to break the 100 barrier, they don't think like a good golfer in terms of like, well, I can't control my golf ball, so I don't need to worry about where I'm aiming. I'm just going to try and hit it down there. But that's not the case. The one thing we don't want to do off the tee is go in the water or go out of bounds, because that's tip number one. If you stop wasting shots off the tee and just get it in play, doesn't have to be in the fairway. What I mean by getting it in play, if I come to this part of the tee now and aim here, as a slicer, I know my ball as a right-handed golfer is going to curve left to right. So for me, aiming down this part of the tee here now is stupid. I'm going to go over to the right there. But like I said a minute ago, I've got the 5th hole, I've got the world to the left here. I've got water in front of me as well that might be a little bit of an issue for people. There's no water here. So first tip is try and get it in play a little bit more frequently off the tee. Think like a good golfer and think, right, where is my danger? That pond is a no-go. The out of bounds is a no-go. Even if you hit it in the trees or just get it into the rough that is 100 yards on the left-hand side, that's fine, because you know what? You can go and find it, you can knock it down the fairway, and you're not taking 3 off the tee or being in the pond. So when we get on the tee here, look at where the trouble is, the real trouble, and then hitting it in the trees isn't so bad. So for this one here now, I am going to aim up onto the 5th fairway for myself here, and then I'm going to try and work it back with my slice onto the fairway. So I'm going to aim pretty much, like I say, 50 yards offline, nowhere near the fairway. Aim off here, and then I'm going to try and get that slice working back towards the fairway, and if it does happen, I know I'm not going to go towards that pond. And there we go, it's cutting, it's cutting. I've not hit the fairway, but do you know what? I'm up in the trees and I can go and chip out down to near the green and try and get onto the green from there. So tip number one, make sure you actually understand where the real danger is and just play away from it. Tee up to a different side, get away from that danger. Let's go and have a look at tip number two. Tip number two to help you break that 100. One of the areas where you're probably losing a lot of shots is when you actually do find a fairway or you're just on the semi-rough and you end up duffing it just in front of you. And I think that's because as a lot of players get into this shot now, they think, right, well, I've got to get it up high, I've got to get it flying through the air to get it on the green. And it's not so much the case that you need to be thinking about the elevation of the shot. What we need to try and do is just get a little bit of consistency from the shot. And if you just come round here for me, one of the big things that I do see when I would watch a player who's trying to eliminate the duff but are actually getting them more frequently is that as they make the golf swing, a big characteristic is either A, they are very flat-footed through impact, so we would see that my feet stay very still, so the swing would look like this. And as you can see there, if you just come close for me, I aligned my club up with the golf ball then, and look where my divot is. It's actually behind it, so even on a practice swing, I've hit the ground before it. One of the other things that we would see as well would be a player that, for the extreme of that, would actually fall backwards and spin out of the shot again with that mindset of, right, I need to get this struck and I need to get it up in the air. Let's change that thought. What I want you to try and do when you've got an iron or your hybrid or your fairway wood and it's on the ground now, what I want you to think about is holding that finish. Imagine there's me stood watching you and you're going to pose for me at the end of every shot like the camera was on you. I want us to now, and we're not maybe going to get the ultimate level of consistency with our strike. We might even get them a little bit thin, toey or heely, but what we're going to stop doing is hitting the ground before the golf ball. I want you to make some golf swings and just try and feel like you're almost walking after the ball towards your target. So you would not go behind it, away from it, you make the golf swing and feel like you're going to go towards it, so we would see that you're starting to get more into your finish position. Like I say, it might not result in the utmost consistency, but what it will do is we might actually start seeing that, yeah, you get your 9-iron going 110 instead of 60, your 7-iron goes 120 instead of 70, but nice little simple thing. Don't worry too much about hitting the best iron shots in the world, but let's see if you can get into that finish position and try and hold it a little bit more. Just like this, and I'm over that front side, I've got the ball away, and it's a nicely struck iron shot. So try and think more about holding that finish, getting into your finish position, instead of trying to get the ball up in the air. If you do the finish position, that ball's going up anyway. Let's go and take a look at the third tip that you need to get better at breaking 100. The next thing on breaking that 100, inevitably, we're going to find ourselves in some trouble amongst the trees, maybe in some long rough, but it's going to happen. It's part of trying to break 100. But what I don't want you to do here is think, oh my God, my world's ending now. I can't get out of here. I've got to pull off a miracle shot to make sure that I don't make double, triple, whatever it may be. It's not the case. Here on this hole now, I'm actually only 80 yards away from the green, but what I would see is that our mentality starts to speed up. We start thinking things are spiraling out of control, but realistically, the easiest option I could take here would be just to chip it 10 yards sideways and I'm back in play. That's job done. If you're trying to break that 100, you've got the opportunity to make 9 double bogeys and 9 bogeys out on the golf course. You might be down near the green here for 2, and I've only got 80 yards to go on this par 4. So if I just chip out sideways, I've then got 3 more shots to get it in the hole. And you might make a 7 or an 8, but that's okay. What we don't want to do is bring those 9s, those 10s in, because I try and bring out the miracle shot. As we look from here, we can actually just see the flag poking through here. And what some people might do is think, oh, I can get this on. What I want you to try and do is think about, how can I advance the golf ball as close to the green without any real issue? It might be that you can only get 150 yards towards the green. It might be that I can actually get to 10 yards in front of the green without actually taking on too much risk. So for me here, what I'm going to try and do now is, the only thing I've got to worry about is the bit of rough that is actually between the ball and the fairway here. So about 25 yards. So I can play a little chip and run shot with a low lofted iron like my 7-iron that'll pop out, keep it below the canopy of the trees, and then just run up to near the front of the green. I'm not going to hit the green. It's too much of a risk. If you were really nervous about this shot, just play out sideways, a little chip, back into play, and then start trying to hit your good shots from there. So for me, ball in the centre to slightly back, weight forwards, and then just a putting-like stroke swing, just to let the little bit of loft pop it up, and then it run out towards the green. And there we go, lands just on the fairway, and it's running up towards the front portion of the green, and now I'm back in play. I'm not rattling around in the trees because I tried to do something that wasn't a smart idea. I can go and try and break that 100 still. So one of the shots that we're going to need to master or get better at to break 100 is in close around the greens. We're going to spend a lot of time here because we won't be hitting a lot of greens. And you'll find yourself in scenarios like this where we have quite a sharp upslope up onto the green, and then the flag is on that flat part there, which is quite close towards that, that upslope. And I would imagine that's quite a scary shot for a lot of people. And what I see a lot of things happening here is that duft shot. We just flub it into the face of the slope and it's rolling back down at our feet. So from here then, what I want to do, if you just wander around here for me, I want to try and see that as I make my stroke, I'm going to almost try and play it a bit like a putter. If you think of how I would actually make a putting stroke, I get my grip, I make a little bit of a triangle with my arms here, and all I would really be doing is rocking my arms here, so you see this triangle rocking. What I've done is I've got one of my more lofted clubs, my 56-degree wedge here, it might be a 60, but what I want to try and do is try and emulate the same putting stroke. So I would have a small narrow stance, the ball in my middle of my stance with my weight forwards. Then I have a little rocking stroke. The only difference is as I finish, I would just turn to face my target ever so slightly. With my putting stroke, I would here and rotate my head, as where with my chipping action, I make the same swing, but I just turn at the end. And one other thing, if you are trying to break this 100, to get this close is very, very hard. What we want to do is actually give ourselves a little bit of leeway. If you get this inside 20 feet, 30 feet, great. As long as you're not duffing it in front of yourself here, that's a big win. So imagine your putting stroke. You're going to get that ball in the middle of the stance and then just try and get the putting stroke with a little bit of turn at the end. And from there then, what we will see is we get a shot just like so. Even there, I landed that nice and cute and it's gone running by. But you know what? I'm up on the green. I've not duffed it into the front of the slope here and got it rolling back down towards my feet. As I do that more frequently, my confidence grows and I'll get better at those shots. Okay, the fifth and final tip to break that 100 is all to do with our mental state. Now, you've got to go out there and you've got to enjoy the challenge, and it is going to be hard. You'll probably fall at the last hurdle quite a few times before you actually break that 100, but that's okay. It's learning experience. But what we don't want to be doing is detracting ourselves from the job at hand. Here on the fourth hole, you may have had a nice little start. You might have gone bogey, 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 but now all of a sudden the wheels fell off here on the fourth hole and you face a putt like this that is for double bogey. It's only about 5 feet, but what you might start to think is, oh, I need to make this because I can't make any more than a double bogey. I've got to get this in the hole. And what we're not actually doing is concentrating on the job at hand. And it might be that that could be the length of putt that you face on the 18th hole to shoot 99. What you would then start to do is spiral with those thoughts of, oh, I've got to break 100, I've got to hold this to get 100. And again, you're not thinking about the task at hand. So whenever you get into any scenario and you feel yourself just racing a little bit, feeling that mind getting out in front of you, just slow it down slightly. Think to yourself, what does a good shot require here? So what does the swing look like or feel like? Where do I need to aim? How hard do I need to hit it? What undulation do I need to avoid? From there then, you're focusing on the present, not thinking about that score all the time. So for this one here, and I'll get in, I'll have a little look. It looks fairly straight to me. I can pick a target here that I'm going to think about. So now as I get over this golf ball, I'm focusing on a little target that I've picked here. I would get in, I would have my practice strokes, thinking about my tempo, line myself up. And you know what? I've knocked it in because I went through the requirements of what a good shot would look like. If I'm stood over that thinking, don't miss this because I'm going to make triple bogey, don't do this, don't do that, don't hit it over there, all of a sudden my mind isn't on the task at hand. So you've got to focus yourself in because, like I say, when you get close to breaking that 100, it's going to be the first thing on your mind. So just give yourself a second. What does it take to shoot under 100? What is a good shot for it? Guys, I hope you've enjoyed that video. And as well, if you are trying to break 100, there There are a lot of people out there in the same boat as you, so don't be too hard on yourself. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Why not check out another one down here about chipping that will help you get sharp with your chipping. Again, it's going to help you break 100. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lesson.